Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Visuals Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Cole from IMCE. Cole, hope you're doing well. Can you please introduce yourself and talk a bit about your journey, and we'll go on from there.
Cool. Hi, Emilio. Thanks for having me. I'm very honored to be here. So, a bit about myself. So, yeah, I'm Cole, and yeah, I'm a filmmaker from London, and I've been doing it now for about 4 years. So, since 2018. I used to be in the tech industry before this, working with brands like Samsung, Panasonic, and one of my last jobs in the tech industry was with Microsoft. So, I used to be the head of demonstrations for the holographic division. So before the HoloLens hit the market, we was tasked with working with a lot of brands and stuff like that, um, how they can transform their business with holograms and et cetera, et cetera. And I worked there for about 4 years. And it was actually at that time when I got in touch because we had our own video team, our video production team, big suite, and all of this red cameras and that kind of stuff. And got talking one day, and then obviously we became friends. And they loaned me a camera. I think it was a Canon 5D Mark II, when I took my youngest daughter to Buckingham Palace. And from then I was just hooked on shooting. And I actually started out in photography first, but then obviously left photography, then went into video. So yeah, that's kind of it.
That was awesome. I honestly didn't know about the tech industry thing, but I feel
Yeah.
like this has affected you, affected your, I would say, love for gear in a way. We'll talk about that later on.
Yeah.
But next thing to discuss is how did you start your YouTube channel? And was it always focused on gear reviews mainly? That's, I think, how I
No,
see it.
yeah, no, it wasn't. And the funny thing is, I actually hate doing gear reviews. I actually hate
Really?
it. Yeah. So when companies reach out and ask me if I want to do a review, I I really have to, I really struggle on what gear to take because I actually don't like it. Some of the stuff is really cool. So the stuff that you'll see on my channel is stuff that I'm really genuinely interested in, and have a passion about it. So, but other than that, I really turned down a lot of gear, offers and stuff like that because I just don't like it. And I've done sales for a lot of years as well when I was younger, but I'm not into that anymore. So yeah, so the way I started out in YouTube was just like everybody else, just created like a random channel donkeys years ago for no particular reason. Yeah. And I think it really started to take what really started to get my interest up is when I started flying drones just for fun, and flying manual drones because I really loved the excitement of flying manual drones, and then just recording the footage and then putting it up on YouTube. And kind of, yeah, that's where it kind of went. And then it kind of went into like reviews after a bit, and then obviously, as you know, it kind of evolved into making videos and on budget gear and trying to get the most out of the gear that you have.
Okay, just one thing. By manual drones, do you mean like similar to FPV drones, like the drones that you actually build yourself and manage all the components, or
Yeah,
can you just like clarify on that?
yeah. No, not that technical. No,
Okay.
I mean just drones that don't have any assistance. Like any sort of onboard assistance.
Hmm.
Yeah. Uh, what do you call it? Oh my god, my mind's gone now. The obstacle avoidance and all
Okay.
that kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah.
So without sensors, essentially.
Without sensors and stuff. So you
Okay.
have to literally, yeah, control it at every single point. I actually used to enjoy it a lot more then, and I used to fly drones a lot. But then when I got into these drones with all of these features, I kind of tapered away from it because the excitement goes from then. It kind
Hmm.
of it's just like it does everything for you. So what's the point?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, actually, right there. Um, so you started out with drones, and then you
Mm.
went to cameras.
Mhm.
Did did that like affect your, I would say, like um how you compose images on your camera, or like were you
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, with drones, you have to, getting random footage is okay, but then when you got people that compose their shots on their drones, and sometimes they can look absolutely amazing when you've got this landmark or some sort of beautiful scenery and composition. Yeah, it definitely helps a lot. But I think composition wasn't something I learned until actually probably not even that long ago, maybe about 2 years ago.
oh
How
wow,
how important it really is.
nice.
Mm.
And actually, I'm surprised that you're not that into gear reviews, because
Mm.
like, if anyone who checks your like your channel knows that your reviews are like very in depth, and
Yeah.
like they're very interesting, and like you really want to watch the whole thing. So
Oh,
you
cool.
should keep on making reviews, honestly.
Cheers. Thank you.
As a subscriber, I mean, I'm
Yeah. Thank
that
you. I
that's
appreciate
that's
that.
what we're asking for.
Yeah.
Um, so Cole, how how important is gear? That's a very broad question, but that's
Mm.
something that's asked all the time, especially for like beginners. I would say
Yeah.
they
Mm.
always ask like, "What's the camera that I should get? Is the camera more important than the lens? Should I focus on my lights? Should I focus on audio? Like, how important is gear in order to create like some very beautiful footage?"
Mm. I would say it's very important, but I think that we have to kind of look at things as the way that, where we are now, in the fact that this whole social media thing, how it's the biggest thing now. Whereas you could make a lot of money doing a couple of reels, and you wouldn't necessarily make the same amount of money if you shot like a movie or something like that. So gear is important, but it depends on what you're doing. So I believe in my heart that these days you do not need the biggest and the best camera out there. In fact, I think most people could create compelling images, make a lot of money even with the most basic camera. That's the truth of it. The way I feel about it, because we when we look at YouTube, and this is we've all been down that route where we've watched other YouTubers and they're talking about, oh, it does 280 frames per second in 4K or 8K or whatever, and it has 17 stops of dynamic range and all this kind of stuff. And I used to be in that, and this resolution race. I used to be in all that kind of stuff. I'm thinking I always need to constantly upgrade my camera, and that's why I think in the early days I was buying a lot more cameras than I needed to, because I always thought there was something better. But then once the audience saw stuff, and I knew that certain films what I've put out there are really flawed, in terms of the way that they look, and in terms of some certain things with the sound and stuff like that. But then everyone's like, "Oh my god, we loved your movie! It's so great!" And this really touched me, and that touched me. And hardly anybody commented on the things that I was worried about. So I stopped making films for other filmmakers at that point, and I started making films for an audience. And when you get that in your head, then I think that you can actually make good, compelling content with the most basic of gear.
That's a great point right there. And I think a lot of filmmakers kind of neglect that, and they try to, as you said, create films for filmmakers.
Mm,
And like there are like some very minor issues sometimes that only a dedicated like filmmaker or videographer would actually like recognize that
yeah,
small issue right there,
yeah.
while the majority of the audience just like they don't care and
Then-
they don't even notice. So
exactly. Yeah.
and I think like nowadays um gear is less important than it was before,
Mm,
if
hmm,
I think so, because like phones are so powerful, and like
mm,
budget cameras are so powerful, and
hmm,
like you can get very cheap audio,
mm, mm,
you can get very cheap lights.
hmm.
Like back then, if you look at, let's say, like film, that was expensive,
Yeah, yeah.
and like
Hmm.
there was no other way to create content, I would say.
That's
So
right.
like I would say we're privileged now to get
Mm,
to work on like
yeah,
such amazing like piece of gear.
yeah, and you can own it. You can own it for very little money these days. Now, and I do understand that, even at £1,000 for a camera is still a lot for some people. Because I talk to a lot of people, in private messages and on Facebook and Instagram, all sorts of things. And a lot of people, they do, struggle with trying to raise the money to get, an expensive camera, even £1,000. But we are very privileged in this day and age, and even I've been in this industry for such a short time, but the changes that have happened in such a short time has been crazy. And if we just apply those those thoughts about just creating good content, I think that, and think about what you're doing, as we said, composition, stuff like that, and lighting. I think that you can really pull magic out of the most basic camera these days.
Exactly.
Mm,
And now on to our next point, which is something I'm very excited about.
yeah.
So, for those who don't know, Cole has essentially built a camera. So, the camera we're talking about is a Canon EOS M. If I'm not mistaken, it was released around 10 years ago.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, around 10 years ago. And you can find it on eBay for probably less than $200 if you're
Hmm.
talking dollars.
Mm,
And Cole transformed it into a mini cinema camera.
yeah.
So please tell me all you want about that because this is just amazing. Like
Yeah.
I've watched the video that you made and I was like, oh my god, this guy's
Yeah.
insane.
And that's version one. Wait till you see version two, which we're working on right now. So
What's the name of the version two?
version two is just going to be the M Lite or the M Pro. So there's actually going to be two of them. But
Okay,
yeah, I'll just remind me, and I'll speak about that a
okay.
bit later. Yeah, yeah. So as I said before, I speak to a lot of people in my DMs, and these people come from all over the world. From India, Colombia, Cuba, Dominican Republic, England, everywhere. And most of the guys in like South America and stuff like that, for them to import a camera, it costs so much money. They pay a lot more for the M than we do in the West. We at the time when I first got into the EOS M, that was my first camera, by the way. We could buy one of those for like £80, and now the price has kind of doubled, but they're still relatively cheap. For people to import that camera from a different, from Japan or from wherever, it costs them actually a bit more than what we pay here. So a lot of these guys, they use that camera to actually build up their careers. They shoot music videos and talking head corporate stuff, and they're doing great stuff because those guys are the guys that don't have any choice. So they put a lot of work in and a lot of effort into what they're doing, and they some of them are just absolutely getting amazing results, much better results than what I've seen on a lot more expensive cameras. So so I thought about years ago about turning the EOS M into a box cam, and that was because of when I saw the prices of these box cams, these cinema cameras. I didn't really want to. I didn't want to spend that much money. It was too much, man. And
Yeah.
yeah, it is a lot of money. So, but then the benefits of those cameras and why they are built like that, why they are shaped like that, because handling them just makes things so much easier. And then ringing them out, building things on and stuff like that. And even when you go into a place, your camera, however complex it looks, it kind of impresses people, your clients and stuff like that. Yeah, but the EOS M is a weird camera because it's so small. It just doesn't look right when you rig it out. It looks a bit stupid, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
Especially for like I think like I don't own one. I'm
yeah,
gonna buy one from one of yours, but
yeah.
like stabilization wise, because it doesn't have IBIS obviously, and
Mm,
it's very lightweight. So like
mm,
any like any handheld stuff looks
yeah,
very jittery. Am
yeah.
I? Is that correct?
Yeah. If you've watched enough ESM videos, you can see a lot of people have jitter, and some of my early ones as well. Awful, shocking videos in terms of, and that's only like in 2018. The color grading, the composition, the focus, the jitter, everything was just awful. But yeah, it's something that you can't really help because you want to keep the camera minimal. But as you said, with no advanced features like the stabilization and all that kind of stuff, you can use a lens with image stabilization, obviously, but they're still so small that there's not really any way to take it. When you want to rig it out or when you want stability, it's just an awkward camera to rig.
Agreed.
Mm,
I think
mm.
I think I watched a video not long ago. I think it was Zeke.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he made like he turned the EOS M into like digital Bolex
yeah,
with like the handle. That was really nice.
yeah,
Like and like he would color grade it in order to give it like this Super 16 look and
yeah.
things like that. But can you just describe how you built your camera and like what are the features of
Mm,
the EOS M Pro? Like
yeah,
I've seen the video obviously, but like
yeah,
most people watching probably haven't. So can you just like describe it? Like,
yeah.
what's the
So
advantages and things like that?
yeah, let me just show it to you. The light is actually perching on there, so I'm going to mess that up. So this is it here.
It looks so good.
Yeah. So
I
that's nice.
prefer I prefer it honestly like the black version.
Yeah.
Just personal preference looks.
Yeah, the black is definitely better. I think the black definitely got a lot more attention. But I did the orange for a reason because I wanted the orange to stand out to look
It
really,
does. It
yeah,
does.
crazy, yeah. And it did. When we was doing the test shoot outside and we were shooting for the radio station, a lot of people were coming up to us and talking about it because it's a prototype. You want it to be a bit, a bit loud. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm,
Um, okay, for our audio listeners, can you just talk a bit about
yeah.
it, like
Yeah.
about its physical appearance and like
Sure.
handling and things like that? Just
Yeah. So the physical appearance is basically a box shape. So I the model that I use to build this camera is the red Komodo. So because of the Canon EOS M, it has the lens mount is kind of off center. It's more over to the depending on where you're looking. If you're looking at it from the rear, the lens mount is more over to the left side.
all
So
right.
you
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
you
I
so you got
noticed
the
that.
hand grip on the right side. Yeah. So we had to scale it up, and I'm talking about Tom from 3D Focus, who does 3D printing for lenses and lens gears and that kind of stuff. We had to scale it up quite big to get it to fit. But then yeah, it worked. So then we just done all the measurements for the mount, all that kind of stuff. And then what I did was when I received the box from Tom, because he lives in the Czech Republic, then I had to kind of go about designing a way how to make the EOS M fit with all of the extras that I wanted. So he couldn't print this box with all the cutouts that I need because he doesn't know where everything goes. So I literally had to get a Dremel and like a hacksaw and a few other tools and just literally be cutting pieces out of where I wanted things to go. So there wasn't much room for mistake. And but luckily I not luckily, I did put a lot of effort into where things would go. So basically, we're talking about a Komodo shape, which is about 1.5 times size, 1.5 times bigger than the Komodo.
Mm.
The EOS M is stripped down and it's bolted into the front and held by a bolt at the bottom. And then from on the side piece, I just got like a little cheap extender, HDMI extender, which goes from the mini HDMI to a full size. And that rests right on the side of the body. So you got a nice full size HDMI. And I extended the mic jack with just a simple 2.5-inch extender cable. And then it's got the screen. The screen I had to buy an extension ribbon for from AliExpress. I think it only cost me about £6 or so. And that allowed me to move the screen from the back of the camera up to the top body. So it's a top-down view like you see on the Red Komodo.
Yeah.
And then and then from there it was just about choosing which battery I wanted. So obviously I went for V mount, and that's just like a small rig V mount plate just bolted into the back, and then you can choose your battery. But you still got the option to run with a internal battery if you want as well. And then finally, the last two features. Oh, and the buttons. Sorry, the buttons were mapped to the right hand side. So if you've got the handle on the right hand side, then you can easily press the button because the record button's right next to to the handle. And then I put an 18650 power bank inside there as well, so you can charge things, or if you want to use it for the internal fan, because I did put an internal fan in there to cool down the camera,
Oh
which is
wow.
which is very important because I'm going to go into that now actually, because there's a new build that just came out recently, probably about 2 weeks ago, and this new build has just absolutely exploded the EOS M capabilities. Now, before this new build came out, the previous hack we were running could only go up to about 80 megabits per second. If I said that right, I never get it right. Megabits,
Yeah.
megabytes, whatever.
Megabits, I think.
Megabits, yeah, 80 megabits per second, and we thought that was great because 2 years ago it was topping out at 50 megabits per second. So we thought that was great, but with the latest hack, you can now record over 100 megabits per second,
Oh
which is
wow.
it's crazy. So in the early test, what they were finding is that the memory card slot would heat up a lot, and the back of the camera
Mm.
would heat up a lot. So then it would stop your recording at a certain point after about 3 or 4 minutes. So the hackers had another update recently, a couple of days ago, which is even more stable, and some people have reported great success in the new hack. But you're still going to be generating that heat. So with the fan involved in the EOS M XL, it really cools down the temperature of the camera. So effectively, with this new hack and the XL with the fan, you can run at normal temperatures, about 32 degrees, rather than shooting at about 45 degrees, something like that.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
just for for people who don't know, the hack that Cole is talking about is Magic Lantern,
That's
correct?
right. Yeah. Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Yeah. Yeah.
And Magic Lantern is basically a firmware that's available for a lot of Canon cameras that
Mhm.
basically unlocks hidden capabilities. So
Yeah.
in the case of the EOS M, raw video and what are some like additional like I can't remember honestly from
Yeah. I mean,
other
obviously,
than raw.
yeah. Yeah. The raw video is going to be the main one because what Magic Lantern does essentially is just it records like how CDNG records. It records a still frame and then it stitches those still frames together and so you get one file. Then that one file you can sort of transcode it on the MLV app. So it's a very simple process, a very easy process because the camera does everything for you, and it unlocks things like the new build. The new hack is up to 5.2K raw now, so which is very nice. And some of the modes still have a cropping. It does
Yeah.
cropping, but most of them, well, the main ones, 2.5K, 5K, and 1080p are all normal, pretty much normal size. You can get things like focus peaking,
Oh, correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, dual ISO, HDR, time lapse. There's a ton of features, but you really have to learn about those features and how they work inside that camera because it's not just like a retail camera where you can kind of just press a button and go in and do it. You kind of have to learn the process of it. Like, for instance, even if we talk about slow motion, when you put it in the 1080p slow mo mode, which gives you up to about 48 frames per second, it's good practice to then go before you shoot anything, going back into the Canon menu because you have two menus now. You've got the Magic Lantern menu and you've got the Canon menu. So if you choose a slow mo on the Magic Lantern menu, you should go into the Canon menu and also move that up to 50 frames or whatever, 720p in 50 frames. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, yeah, because you're just making sure the Magic Lantern menu reads the Canon menu properly, and then you get proper slow mo. So it's just little things like that to work out because I think a lot of people they don't spend a lot of time in the group or on the forums, and then they find themselves in a bit of trouble. But if you go into even on the Facebook group, which is you get a lot of help there, and I think people will explain that a lot more simpler than what I said. But there's a lot of experts in the group, so
No, but it does make sense. And obviously, like if someone wants to install Magic Lantern on their camera, like they'll have to make like do some their own research, and
yeah,
I think it will be worth it, honestly, especially on
yeah,
old cameras.
yeah,
Like I think 5D Mark II, like
yeah.
camera that you were talking about, also has like some very good features with
Very
Magic
impressive.
Lantern.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very impressive. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, back to the EOS M Pro.
yeah.
Um, did you change the mount, or is it still the M mount?
Yeah, so
Or
on my one, it's got an EF mount on there. So, because I use predominantly EF glass, whether it's
most people?
adapted, vintage, yeah. So that's why I left the EF mount on there. But in the version 2, you'll be able to use native M lenses or adapt to pretty much whatever you want to, because there'll be the way we're designing it, it's going to have more space around the mount, and yeah, it's just a much better refined design. So you will be able to use any lens mount you want.
Oh wow, that's very convenient.
Yeah.
And did your like previous career in the tech industry, how much did it affect you going on to this doing this project? Pretty much,
Mm,
did it inspire you, or like did you think like without your previous experience, could you possibly do something as impressive as this? Or
yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, I don't think the knowledge would have been that deep as if I didn't go into the tech industry. But I've always been kind of into building things. From my era, which is a long. I'm probably a lot older than you. So yeah, when we were kids, we went out and built things. We built bikes, we built tree houses, we built boats. To go. On lakes and stuff. So it's always been about building things. I think nowadays, things are a bit too accessible, and people don't really have to think about construction and building that much. But yeah, I've always been into building things really, and fixing things and modifying things, just making things better. But
awesome.
yeah, but it's actually the my job with Microsoft. So like I said, it was a really good job. It was a really fun job. The places that I traveled and the people that I worked with, well, it was crazy. And I used to work with Satya Nadella quite a lot when he used to come over to London, and Cindy Rose, our UK CEO as well. So it was really good. And the way that I got that job is I don't actually have the qualifications what they were asking for, because you needed a bachelor's in some computer science thing or in something or other. I don't have none of that stuff. You know, I've got a couple of GCSEs, you know, our normal school exams, and that's it. So, but one guy, he found my CV and asked me, you know, there's a new exciting project happening. Would you be interested in going up for it? I said, yeah. So he called me, we spoke, and he said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. You don't have the qualifications for this job, but you have a lot of experience in you know, working with big brands. So I said, okay, fine. So when I went to the interview, which was about 12:30 in the afternoon, the interview was going fine and that kind of stuff. And the guy, the head of the department, he asked me what are my hobbies. So I said, oh, you know, I go to the gym and I have a YouTube channel. And he said, oh, okay. So he goes, what's the name of your channel? And at this time, my channel was a load of rubbish. Oh, well, I mean, not that it's great now, but it was terrible back
It
then.
is.
Oh, okay, thanks. And so he took my the name of my YouTube channel, and then about 3 hours later, when I was on the train home, he rang me and said to me, "Yeah, we've given you the job." And I said, "Are you serious?" And he said, "Yeah." So I said, "Oh," I said, obviously I was over the moon. So I spent, you know, the next 4 years working there. But about a year and a half into the job, I asked him when we was at lunch one time. I said, "Why did you employ me?" Because, you know, there was a lot more people there, more qualified than you. And he said, "Yeah, it's true. We did have a lot more people who had, you know, degrees and all this kind of stuff." And but he said, when we checked your YouTube channel, we saw a video that you made, which was of a mobile phone as a headset, one of those cheap, you know, them Google headset things. And I connected it to like this old IBM computer and a PS5, and it was like a VR system. You know, when you move around, you can control where the
Oh
camera goes.
wow.
Yeah, this was back in the day, like 2014, 13. I made that with Trinis Gaia and an Android app. And he said, we saw that. And he said, as soon as we saw that, we knew that we had to hire you because you were building this stuff and this is where we're heading, you know. So he goes, we know that from that stuff there, we know that you'll be able to work with us, and you know, we like your personality and stuff like that. So it's crazy that I actually got my job from building a random thing and posting the video on YouTube. It was crazy.
That's amazing. And now you're back to building things
Yeah.
you love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything came full circle.
Yeah.
Uh, and Cole, what are your plans when it comes to selling the EOS M? And
Mm,
how will production go? Can you please talk more about that? Um, like, do
yeah.
customers send you their EOS Ms, and do you convert it? Do you install Magic Lantern? Like,
Mm,
I think, and some, like, if people are interested in buying it, like people watching now are interested, that's the kind of
mm.
questions that they would be asking.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's the questions I've been getting a lot, to be honest. Yeah, that kind of stuff. So no, we're not going to take any. We're not going to buy EOS Ms, or we're not going to take people's EOS Ms in. You will literally. There will be some work you have to do yourself, but Emilio, it is so simple. I mean, in terms of it sounds crazy that because I'm saying this and I build things as well. Like I like to muck around with things, but if you've ever seen a video where you change your buttons, because sometimes the buttons can go on the ESM, it's probably about 5 or 6 screws that you have to take off the back, and then you can just release the ribbon catch for the buttons. It's going to be as simple as that, Emilio. We've designed it in a way that if you will be able to get the STL file, it will be, you will have to buy it, the STL, if you want to print one at home, and then you can just follow the video that we make, the walkthrough video on how to disassemble your ESM and where to put the camera and all that kind of stuff. But it's going to be very straightforward, because the reason why we, you know, it's mad because I don't really want to look at this like I'm trying to sell something, because this wasn't the plan. The plan was to make this and just show it off what can be done, trying to take the ESM to the next level. But there was a lot of cost, Emilio. You know,
of course.
yeah, I had to buy another ESM to send to the Czech Republic, so you know Tom can do all of the designs. There's things that we have to buy in terms of the new filament and the new filament heads, because the pro version which we're making is going to be made very high quality, extremely high. But then I also know that some people are going to want to build their own at home. So there will be a very low price for the STL. If they want to buy it and print it at home, they can just follow our video. they should be able to put it up, build it all together within about an hour and a half, I reckon. With and that you don't need any experience for that. There's no soldering. There's no all kinds of crazy stuff. It's literally there is a bit of you'll have to disassemble the back of your EOS M. But as I said, go and watch a video about how to change the EOS M buttons on the back, and you'll see how simple it is. And then from there, they can choose whatever they like. If they're on a really low budget, they can run with the internal battery. If they've got a bit more money to spend and they've got a power bank or whatever, they'll be able to screw some sort of power bank holder to the back, or if they've got V mounts or whatever, they can literally build it up the way that they want. So yeah, that's the one anyone can do. But then the pro version is we're gonna keep that STL to ourselves, unfortunately, because the pro version is going to be printed from a filament which is mixed with carbon fiber.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so it's going to be the quality of it is going to look absolutely, almost retail. The quality of it. The quarter 20 mounts are going to be heat sunk into the camera as well. So you kind of when you're printing the camera, you kind of have to stop it halfway, put in the quarter 20s, and then keep printing it in, and basically they're heat sunk into the camera, so it's super strong. Then we're going to have things like a DC jack on that one, uh, uh, 18 a dual 18650 slot in the bottom as well, so you can run from 18650 batteries and power other devices. So yeah, all of that stuff, we will sell that one for about between 170 to $190 for that whole shell, included all the work being done and the electronics and everything already done for you. So all you have to do when you get the box, you take off the back of the EOS M, slot it in, screw it from the bottom, run your cables for the extension for your HDMI, which will also be in the box. Everything would be in there, and then you just screw it back together, and you've got a lovely looking camera. So just to reiterate, the STL file, if you want to print it yourself, that will be available for a low cost, maybe around, I don't know, $25 or $30, something like that. But then if you want us to build you the same one as what I'm going to have, the pro version, that's going to cost you maybe around $180.
Okay. So 180, that includes everything except for the camera, obviously.
That's right. Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. Yeah, all
Great.
cables, all extension ribbons, DC jack, power connector for the 18650s. Everything will be already built. Then you just put your camera in. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
And when do you expect to start selling both? And
So we're at the moment we're looking around the end of October, but we're still design wise is still crazy, because once we think we've got a way to do something good, then we find it upsets something else. Yeah, so and then it would be easy if we could literally strip down the whole camera and just rip everything off like what I did with the original. Like it's just a bare shell. But we can't do that, because one of the two is one there's two key things about this. One, it has to be cheap. It has to make sense. Whether you're printing it yourself or you're going for the pro model, it still has to be cheap. Because if it starts reaching, $400, $500, I just don't think it's not worth it at all.
right.
Yeah. So it has to be really cheap. But and the second thing, it has to be easy to build, because if I want the most simplest, the person who has no build knowledge, no tear down knowledge or anything at all, I want them to be able to follow this video, and it's just the most simplest thing they've ever done. And also, if they want to sell the camera, I want them to be able to take it out and then put the camera back together, really simple as well, so they can sell it on.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
non-destructive is key. Yeah,
Of course.
yeah,
Yeah, honestly, like I'm very interested in like getting one of my own or printing one on my own.
awesome.
But I would be, I think, most interested in adopting vintage lenses,
Yeah,
maybe Helios, and adding a 3D printed case to the Helios.
mm.
I think you've done that once.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
find it very interesting. I like
yeah,
think like you'd have like a very nice rig with like, because the Helios, it's tiny lens, so like
yeah, yeah,
with the additional 3D printed parts, this would be
yeah.
great.
It'll be great. Yeah, but remember, this one is a lot smaller than the one I built, the original one.
Yeah,
So it's going to be quite a lot smaller. So you should, even with smaller lenses, it should still look pretty nice on the version 2, because the
and
camera physically is a lot smaller.
yeah, and do both versions work well on gimbals, like
Oh yeah,
mirrorless and DSLR gimbals, you would
yeah,
say?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I have a Ronin RSC 2, And again, I didn't really want to splash out on a gimbal too much. So I bought the RSC2, and yeah, even this big one, the version 1, it flies so nice on there, man, because they're really light.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm,
Awesome. Awesome.
mm,
Okay. Cool. Final thoughts. Can you please just give me um like one piece of advice for like young creators who are
mm,
having like who are taking a different route to
yeah.
becoming filmmakers and videographers, which you did. So
Mm.
just one message.
I would say, don't think about the money. Don't do it just because you want to get money. I would say, do it for the passion. Shoot what you love to shoot. Don't try to do what everybody else is doing, but shoot what you love to shoot.
Awesome. This has been amazing.
Yeah,
Um, Cole, thank you so much. I'm
no
sure
problem.
everyone listening or watching will have a great time. I will share all of your social media and the link to the latest video that you did of the EOS M Pro.
Yeah. Mhm.
And when you post another video, I'll update that.
Thank you.
And again, thank you so much for being here. This was amazing.
Cheers. Thank you, Emilio. I
Ha-
really appreciate it. Thank you. It's lovely to talk to you.
no worries. Have a good day, Cole. Have a good
You
day,
too.
everyone. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.